Today, the Commerce Department saying U.S. home building rebounded strongly in March. New starts growing at the fastest pace in 15 years, blasting expectations. But there are also signs home building could slow down. What's the challenge? Car companies struggling to meet demand as people start traveling again. Turns out they sold a lot of their fleet during the pandemic. And he founded a private equity firm at 16. By 17, founded another company teaching you how to diversify your assets. And now we talked to Jason Denka about his new project, teaching young people about money. That and much more coming up on NTD Business. Good evening and great to have you with us this Friday evening. U.S. home building jumping to a nearly 15-year high last month, smashing economists' expectations. Home building up nearly 20% in March from the month before. Of course, construction slumping in February when winter storms slammed the South. And bigger, pricier homes are on the menu for Americans as they continue to work and study from home. But there are challenges. Soaring lumber prices could slow down the momentum. The National Association of Home Builders saying it's almost 3 times more expensive buying lumber than last spring. The markets keep going higher, finishing another week with solid gains. The Dow rising 165 points to 0.48%, S&P 500 gaining 15 points to 0.36%, the Nasdaq adding 14 points to 0.1%. A tick-up in bond yields today helped lift bank stocks. Healthcare companies and those directly rely on consumer spending also pushing the market higher. Tech stocks, though, pulling back often happens recently when you see those bond yields rising. Crude oil prices also slipping, weighing down energy companies just a little. The last of the American banks to report quarterly earnings, Morgan Stanley saying today its profit almost doubled to nearly $4 billion, breezing past analysts' expectations. Like its competitors, the bank benefited from the surge in trading volume, including record IPO, SPAC listings, but it did record a one-time loss of almost $1 billion from the Archegos fallout. It was one of the 6 banks that had exposure to the investment fund that defaulted on margin calls last month and triggered a firestorm of sales. But Morgan Stanley did manage to get out before its rivals, Credit Suisse and Nomura. They both booked multi-billion-dollar losses. And car rental companies are struggling to meet demand, not just because more people are traveling again, they are, but because they apparently sold a lot of their cars during the pandemic. NTD's Colin Fredrickson has what you need to know if you're planning a trip.
Travelers attempting to rent cars. Rental companies failing to provide them. A rental car shortage in America.
They basically told the auto industry, we're not buying any new vehicles. So the auto industry stopped production of the vehicles typically targeting rental car customers. Now, as the travel industry starts to come back, the rental car companies are facing serious shortages.
With demand high and supply low, prices soar.
Prices are like triple what they normally are, and in many cases, airports are completely selling out. We had 18 of the 20 airports in Florida sold out for the last few weeks.
Unprecedented numbers for rental car locator Autoslash.com, seeing rates of up to $500 a day.
We are seeing prices rise across the board for all companies in specific areas. Florida, Phoenix area, Las Vegas, and Hawaii are the hardest hit.
Looking to rent? Here's what you should know.
Be prepared to pay more money, so factor that into your travel plans. And then make sure I would purchase cars and I would pay up front, and I would make sure you put that reservation in at least 2 weeks in advance.
Also, you can use companies like Autoslash.com, Costco, and Priceline to search the web for the best deals. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
And General Motors is teaming up with South Korea's LG Energy to build a second battery plant in the United States. This time it's in Spring Hill, Tennessee. The new plant is scheduled to open in late 2023. It will employ 1,300 people. It's expected to supply battery packs for over 500,000 electric vehicles per year. When it opens, the new plant will supply batteries for the Cadillac Lyriq crossover EV. That's slated to start building at its nearby Tennessee assembly plant next year as well. LG is expected to supply the batteries from Korea till then. Do you ever find yourself in that situation where you're away from home and you find out you need a suit at the last minute. You don't really want to buy one just for one event, but it looks like you just have to. Well, now H&M will rent you a suit for free. NTD's Phil Zoe has the details.
Clothing giant H&M is offering men's suit rentals for free.
I think it's cool. I think it's very good.
That's a very interesting and good offer for people. It's very interesting, yeah.
The company said they want customers to look their best when going to important meetings like job interviews.
There's so many possibilities. You just need a, nice suit for a day.
Customers can rent the suits for up to 24 hours.
Places like interviews, meetings.
H&M said minor damages like stains or tears are waived. But for larger damages, customers will be responsible for the entire cost of the suit.
I don't wear suits, yeah.
H&M told Business Insider the program already launched in the United Kingdom. The program is expected to launch in the United States on May 13th. Guess what? I'm also wearing an H&M suit, but I had to pay for mine. Perhaps for customers in the future, they'll be luckier with a free one. Phil Zoe, NTD News, New York.
Good timing as companies start hiring again. And there's a young guy in California that founded Denka Private Equity at 16 years old. At 18, he's the founder and CEO of Analytica Group. That's an educational company that teaches you how to diversify your assets, from stocks to first edition comic books and rare playing cards. He can read and write in Latin and in Hebrew, knows a little Chinese too. He says he tried Hindi but says it was too much to retain. Guy really needs to pull things together. Now, Jackson Denka is on a mission to teach young people how to safeguard their financial future. His course is with New Directions for Youth, which offers programs for at-risk youth and families. He says not knowing about money is contributing to the poverty cycle. Asked him what's the most harmful misunderstanding of money he's seen among young people.
Just misunderstanding credit is by far the worst and most damaging thing that a young person can, run into, since credit is essentially your lifeline in anything money-wise. I mean, whether you want to get a mortgage on a house that's reasonable, lease a car, rent a house, credit all plays into everything. It is the most important thing out there, really. And I guess just thinking that credit's unlimited is a big thing. People rack up credit card debt just simply not understanding how it works, thinking that they can pay the minimum amount of payment at the end of the month and then gaining interest and then falling, into the trap that is credit card debt. And, of course, score decreasing, making it harder to gain back score, and it's a snowball. It just gets worse and worse and worse as you fall deeper into the credit cycle.
And then how do you go about educating young people on these subjects?
It should be as simple as teach it in school, but we just don't have that. I couldn't tell you why. I wish it were the case that public schools and even private schools taught financial, the importance of financial literacy or just finance in general. The best way is through parents, but sometimes parents don't even understand, and then it becomes part of a generational wealth thing, or the lack thereof, rather, and aid into the poverty cycle. In general, you need someone who's knowledgeable of it to tell you. You can look online, but very rarely are younger people drawn to looking up stuff about finance because, quite frankly, it's boring, and it can be really boring. So it's not often that someone goes out of their way to look up how credit works unless, they're really taking the time to try to understand it, which is not the case often, if ever.
And so how did you go about structuring your particular courses to make it less boring, in your words?
Yeah, that was the thing that took the longest, actually. It wasn't making the courses, it was making them palatable, since I think the average age group that the courses go out to is from 8 to 14, so slightly younger. And as finance being as boring as it is, and really boring sometimes, it took a long time to make the courses fun. And one of the things that I did was I made, I can actually send them over to you. I made, it's colorful and there's a lot of nice graphics, and I relate it to stuff that actually makes sense as opposed to just saying why credit's important. I say why it can aid in, acquiring something like a PlayStation or, a car later down the road, or a house, just stuff that they can understand, because credit itself seems really alien to most kids, especially, before the age of 16. Yeah.
How about for yourself personally? Any big life goals that you're planning, you want to accomplish?
I'm not sure. I used to want to go into Wall Street, but today I'd say Silicon Valley and tech is more of my goal. I really like the idea of innovation. I'm not too money focused anymore. I used to be, but I just don't see the point in only making money. You don't really have a positive impact on the world if you're just simply making money. It doesn't do a whole lot for anyone.
What would you like to do instead?
I'm not sure. I like the idea of stuff Elon Musk does. I find really, really interesting. It's respectable, just innovating however possible. In whatever venue that may be, whether it's whether it's making plant-based meats or making an electric car, I find it interesting, all of it. I'm not sure exactly what I'll do, but I'm probably going to be studying computer science in college, so yeah.
Very good. Jackson Denka, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Greeny.
Do you think an Instagram for children is a good idea? Well, child safety groups don't. And they want Facebook to abandon its plans to launch a version for kids under 13 years old. NTD's Tom Ozimek reports.
Child safety groups are urging Facebook to drop its plans to launch a version of Instagram for children under 13. The coalition wrote a letter to Facebook chief Mark Zuckerberg Thursday. It said a kids' version of Instagram would subject young children to serious risks, like obesity, decreased quality of sleep, increased risk of depression, and cyberbullying. Facebook, which owns Instagram, confirmed it's at an early stage of developing Instagram for kids. It's prompted by concerns that children under 13 are dodging Instagram's minimum age restrictions and accessing the platform. A Facebook spokesperson said kids under 13 want to connect with their family and friends, have fun and learn, and we want to help them do that in a way that is safe and age-appropriate. She added that Facebook also wants to find practical solutions to the ongoing industry problem of kids lying about their age to access apps. But the coalition isn't convinced that a kids' version of Instagram is the right solution. It argues that a kids' version will actually serve to groom younger children, driving them to Instagram at an even younger age, and ultimately exposing them to risks. Facebook says it'll consult with child health and safety experts as it moves forward on the project. Tom Ozimek, NTD News.
And Australia's federal court finds Google misled consumers about personal location data collected through its Android mobile devices. The country's competition regulator announcing the news today. Emer McCarthy reports.
Google has come under fire again in Australia, this time for misleading some consumers about personal location data collected through Android mobile devices. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, the ACCC, said it is seeking declarations and penalties from Google, though it did not specify any amount. The case revolves around specific Google settings related to its location data collection, location history, and web and app activity. Australia's federal court found that Google wrongly claimed it could only collect information from the location history setting on user devices between January 2017 and December 2018. ACCC Chair Rod Sims said the ruling is the first of its type in the world in relation to location data issues.
The business therein is to collect as much data from you as possible. Therefore, there's always that incentive to not perhaps be upfront with you in terms of what data they are collecting in case you object to it. This is very pervasive technology, and we just want to make sure that the price you're paying, which is your data, is in fact a price you're comfortable to pay.
A Google spokesman said that while the court had rejected many of the ACCC's claims, the company disagreed with the remaining findings and was reviewing its options, including a possible appeal.
And Tesla is settling a lawsuit against a former employee who allegedly copied the source code of its autopilot technology. The ex-employee then went to work for a Chinese rival electric car company. NTD's Patrick Hayden reports.
Tesla has reached a legal settlement with a former employee who copied the source code of Tesla's autopilot technology. Tesla filed a lawsuit in 2019 against ex-engineer Cao Guanzhe, who worked at Tesla for 2 years. It says he copied the code before joining X Motors, the US unit of Chinese self-driving car startup XPeng. As well as the source code, Tesla's lawsuit claimed that Zhao uploaded more than 300,000 company documents. Foreign companies manufacturing in China are at considerable risk because forced technology transfers and intellectual property theft are rife. 2 other high-profile cases of Chinese employees allegedly stealing intellectual property from Apple involve the FBI and criminal proceedings, but the Tesla case took the civil proceedings route. A statement from Zhao's legal team said he never accessed any Tesla data after he left the company, but they did confirm Zhao paid Tesla an undisclosed settlement amount. Zhao later left X Motors. X Motors was not a party to the case, and it says it respects intellectual property rights and relies on its own in-house research and development. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
And Montenegro, a country hoping to become a member of the European Union, is now asking the EU to bail it out of Chinese debt. It allowed the Chinese to build a national highway project that went way over budget, but the EU says it's not going to help. NTD's Patrick Hayden takes a look.
The European Commission says the EU cannot help EU hopeful Montenegro repay its debts to China, but it can help complete a highway project that started with a huge loan from Beijing. We spoke to a China specialist. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson recently briefed him about the situation. He says that US President Biden and Johnson are talking about a G7 free world alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative.
Whereas Western countries in the past were principally concerned through their development budgets in poverty alleviation, increasingly it's taking a geopolitical tilt. And it's having to because what the West is doing isn't occurring in a vacuum. Other countries are out there trying to bribe and buy off smaller countries in order to get their will around the world.
Armstrong says the free world option would mean developing countries wouldn't get caught up in bad contracts with China that end up as debt traps, as is the situation with ex-communist Montenegro.
When China comes offering these funds that are attractive, they're seemingly free to begin with, that hold the offer of rapid economic progress and development, you can forgive countries for taking them. But of course, China never gives anything freely.
He says if Montenegro defaults on their first Chinese loan repayment in July, it has serious consequences, giving China access to its land.
I think China would love nothing more than to have a significant real estate presence under Chinese law in the European continent. It would be a threat that strikes right at the heart of NATO. NATO, of course, being at its roots dedicated to upholding European territorial sovereignty. This would be a pretty stunning imposition on it.
He says Montenegro should be welcomed back into the European family.
And if the EU, and indeed if NATO, are serious about upholding European territorial sovereignty, upholding democratic values, upholding the rule of law and everything we stand for, it needs to step in.
He says the EU and NATO should help, even if it's financially costly to them. Patrick Hayden, NTD News, London.
Still to come this evening. The US Olympic team unveils its uniforms for the closing ceremony. Who designed them? And the San Francisco International Airport teams up with United Airlines to test out biometric scans for passengers on domestic flights. Find out how it works after the short break.
Do you have a life insurance policy you no longer need? Now you can sell your policy, even a term policy, for an immediate cash payment. Call Coventry Direct to learn more.
We thought we had planned carefully for our retirement.
But we quickly realized we needed a way to supplement our income.
Our friends sold their policy to help pay their medical bills. And that got me thinking. Maybe selling our policy could help with our retirement.
I was skeptical, so I did some research and called Coventry Direct. They explain life insurance is a valuable asset that can be sold.
We learned we could sell all of our policy or keep part of it with no future payments. Who knew? We sold our policy. Now we can relax and enjoy our retirement as we had planned.
If you have $100,000 or more of life insurance, you may qualify to sell your policy. Don't cancel or let your policy lapse without finding out what it's worth. Visit CoventryDirect.com to find out if your policy qualifies, or call 1-800-509-8500. Coventry Direct, redefining insurance.
90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. This is a battle between truth and deceit. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Ralph Lauren unveiling uniforms for Team USA's Olympic and Paralympic teams. The outfits will be worn during the closing ceremony parade in the 2020 Olympics. The clothing line is manufactured in the United States and uses sustainable materials and manufacturing. American Olympians like swimmers Katie Ledecky and Nathan Adrian are taking part in the current promotional campaign. Ralph Lauren has been an official outfitter of the team since 2008. The company says all revenues from the sale of Ralph Lauren Team USA collection will go to the US Olympic team. And Reese's is now in the cosmetics business. Reese's, the chocolate peanut butter candy, has teamed up with HipDot to launch a makeup line. It might smell like chocolate or peanut butter, but unfortunately it's not edible. Don't even try. The collection features 2 eyeshadow palettes in milk chocolate and white chocolate, 2 lip balms, and 2 makeup brushes. It's on sale now at Ulta, HipDot, and the Hershey's website. The San Francisco airport wants to enable a touch-free experience to the traveler. It's testing a way for passengers to simply scan their faces to board a flight. NTD's Evelyn Lee reports.
United Airlines and San Francisco International Airport are one step closer to a touch-free airport experience. They're the first to try out facial recognition for U.S. domestic flights. SEDA, the company behind the technology, says it could make traveling safer because travelers and agents won't have to exchange documents.
Verifies your identity, verifies that you have a boarding pass, and so the agent's able to eliminate the need to take possession of the documents from the traveler.
Passengers participating in the trial link their driver's license to their facial scan at check-in. They can then move through the check-in to backdrop, security, and boarding by simply scanning their face. One regular flyer appreciates the convenience.
Well, I fly a great deal for business, 150,000 miles a year, so I do this pretty regularly, so anything that saves me a little bit of hassle, whether it's this.
Some airports like Athens, Beijing, and Doha already use this technology. The 60-day pilot program in the United States is making it available on roughly 8 flights a day. To address privacy concerns, SEDA says that biometric information is stored locally at the airport and is automatically deleted after flights.
They don't share the data, so I think there are going to be people, just like vaccines, that are going to be fearful of it. So I'm not one of those people.
So I think this will be an awesome procedure if it goes through and makes life easy for everybody.
If the trial is successful, SEDA says it may expand the technology to other U.S. airports and airlines. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
An architect in Italy is betting the future of home building uses both the newest technology and the oldest materials. He's completed a prototype for the first 3D printed home made from clay. The home is built from soil found at the site, mixed with water, fiber from rice husks, and a binder. The 645 square foot design was printed layer by layer using an intricate work pattern. It includes a living area, bedroom, bathroom. The prototype is currently undergoing structural and thermal performance testing. You could say an essential step before the project can be scaled. The architect believes this process can be replicated in different parts of the world using whatever local materials are available. Wow, incredible. That's the latest business updates for this week. You can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, last of the week. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you Monday.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't miss out on important news. Our videos are being deleted. So if you don't want to be cut off from honest news, take a moment to sign up for our newsletter at newsletter.ntd.com so you don't lose access to NTD. Go to newsletter.ntd.com to sign up for our evening newsletter.